I'm an old soul. I spent so much time in my younger years surrounded by uncles, aunts, and grandparents. I tell people I was supposed to be born in the 40s or 50s. But even when I was a kid, we had to get up to change the channel on the TV. And we didn't know who was calling us when the phone rang. People even showed up to your house unexpectedly. Well, because they were in the neighborhood. Wherever you grew up, you experienced a childhood that can never be duplicated. Good times, bad times, we struggled, we laughed, we ate, and we cried. I want to go back and hear your story. They say you can't live in the past, but we can hang out there for a while. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the No Remote Show. I am Genovese. Today, it's a good day. I got my brother, Dan Isenberg, a.k.a. Stan Ipcus, author, MC, cool dad, which is the most important thing, right?
Appreciate
Hip-hop
that.
journalist. I mean, I could go on. What's up, brother?
I appreciate it, yo. What's up, man? Good to see you.
So
Thanks for thanks for
of
having me
course,
on.
of course.
I've been tuned in.
I appreciate that. And like always, me and Dan got to work on music together. We got some dope stuff. He was cool enough to let me do some stuff in the Do Remember book. That was a phenomenal thing, an amazing book. And as we talk about that, I got to get into the Stan Ipcus thing, because please tell me, how did that name come about?
It was like a nickname that my friends gave me back in like '94, maybe. And came from the movie The Mask with Jim Carrey. And yeah, just one of my boys playing knockout like in our driveway, just messing around, like yes, Dan, making shots. And someone was like Stanley Ipkiss, and it just stuck. It just stuck crazy. And then
That's crazy.
I had like just started rapping around the same time, so it just became like I used to rap as D Nice, and then but there was already like a D Nice, obviously, who we were all fans of, 25 to Life and all that. So yeah, I used to use both, and then eventually I was just like, I dropped the D Nice, and I was just Ipkiss, and that's it, But it came from just like a random game of knockout right around the time of The Mask. Yeah, man.
It's almost like Jadakiss, Kiss of Death and all that. How it's just some random dude in your neighborhood just gives you this nickname that you probably didn't even pay attention to at that point, and it became something that stuck forever.
It just stuck. Like you think about how many like nicknames you give each other like over the years, like your boys that you grew up with. I mean, even still, like my friends still like new nicknames based on whatever, something weird they were wearing when you got up with them, or something crazy they said, or whatever it is. And, some just kind of pass by,
it's
but
the beauty of our childhood, right?
like crazy. And I don't know, that one just stuck. I just embraced it too.
Nah, it's dope. It's different. It's unique, but just like your style, it's unique. I have to ask you, so what came first, like being a journalist, writing, or the music side, writing? Like what came first?
On the writing tip, I don't know. Like I used to always write. I used to always just be like a person who was like writing and liked to write. It came kind of like not easily to me, but it was like it just felt natural. I think like I don't know, in school, like when I went into college, I was taking like creative writing classes, or I just always kind of like excelled. I was always just something that worked for me. And I would just also like do it for fun, like outside of school. Like I would be writing things, whether it was like some weird story, or I was always writing raps. Like I was just like a writer at heart. But like in terms of journalism, like I never did any journalism outside of music. My first thing I ever did was for XXL magazine. My friend Leah Rose, she was like a music editor there, and she sent me on an assignment to like review a live show in DC when I was living down there. It was the Def Jam Vendetta tour. It was Nori, Freeway, Keith Murray. I'm trying to think who else was on there. It was dope. It was like at a little club in DC. It was rowdy. It was kind of reckless
Yeah,
show,
yeah.
but it was like all our favorites. Your peers, to be honest. And yeah, so like I reviewed that, and it was just kind of like a 300-word piece, but it was dope. It was like one full page spread, had my name, byline in XXL magazine at the time. That was the hottest shit, right? The source was gone. It was like 2002, maybe 2003 ish, and yeah, that just came from like, she was a friend of mine that I grew up with, and she was doing her thing, and she knew I loved hip hop and I could write. And then I did a couple more. I did the what was the Rock the Mic tour with 50 and Jay. That was like at an amphitheater down in Virginia Beach. So like she was hitting me with like all the like local shows from me, and that was dope. They had like a great picture of Jay-Z, like full page spread, and so I had that one, and I did another one too. I did Summer Jam one year, the year that like Kiss and Kanye and all them were there, 50 for 2004. So that was like my start. And then from there, like, I don't know, it took a little while, but like once like the blog era hit, I
Nah,
just,
right, Nolo.
yeah, like all that, like,
Shout out SK.
of course, the man, Yonkers legend. Yeah, like once like kind of the blog era hit, and like, that was like bubbling more. I kind of figured out a way to start getting paid to write online. I had to connect over at Complex, um, and I started writing for Complex, and that led to me writing for Not Right and writing for other places too. Um, but yeah, and then I started my own blog, West Cheddar, which was how we met. I interviewed you for
Yep.
that. So yeah, man, I always just kind of been a writer, but it never really was like, it wasn't like I was doing like beat reporting on like, car
Nah, you were
accidents
you
or
were you were
something
in the
before.
scene of hip hop mixtapes and when the music was what it was, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And that leads me to your book, the Do Remember book. Like obviously you love mixtapes growing up in our era. I mean, you had no choice. Mixtapes, if you were hip hop, mixtapes were the main part of the culture. It's where new music, new artists were born, right?
right.
So what I know how long it took for this book to come in place, but what was the initial, like, how did it start? How did you figure, hey, listen, I'm gonna come out with a book, and not just a book, but probably the best book that there's ever been on mixtapes, especially in New York City. How did that
Appreciate
like
it.
just jump off?
I mean, I could like date it back to like doing the Westchester blog. I did like a post on, it was called Mixtape Memories, and it was just like me posting like mad tapes. Like Show Me the Money was on there, like old SNS tapes, Best of Biggie, 95 Live, like all like the classics. I just like dug them up. I found like the digital streams of them. I wrote like little kind of blurbs of them. I found like the original covers. It was like kind of like a one long post. And SK actually picked it up on Not Right. This was before I used to write for Not Right, before I even ever had my music posted on Not Right. That was like my first thing I got posted there on that little Not Right light side piece where he would post articles. And yeah, mad people loved it. And then when I started writing for Not Right, I used to do the mixtape memories. It was like a column. And I just started interviewing people. I started interviewing SNS, Doo Wop, Green Lantern, Who Kid, Tony Touch, like all those dudes, even DJ Drama, some of the guys outside of New York. Um, and it would just be kind of these like oral history style pieces talking about, their experiences in the mixtape game. And I always loved it, and people always loved it. So eventually, like, I just kind of had this idea to do a book, like, kind of based off the Mixtape Memories series that I had done with Not Right, and had talked with my boy Ev. We used to post a lot of mixtape stuff together on his site, Up North Trips, and he was posting stuff while I was doing stuff on West Cheddar. We had kind of like a shared love of like mixtapes and old, nah, like, hip hop, ephemera and shit like that. Um, so yeah, we got together and we just came up with this idea to do kind of like a real visually led oral history style book. We put together a deck. We pitched it to Rizzoli. I had like a great connect with kind of like the head guy at Rizzoli. And it was like quickly like got greenlit. We were kind of like, oh, this is crazy. So there were like kind of elements of like the stuff I had done at Not Right. There were elements of the stuff we had done at Up North Trips that Ev was doing, and we just kind of put it all together. and said, hey, this is like our tribute to the thing that we love, that we grew up on, that we think is like this important piece of hip hop history, especially if you grew up in New York, that maybe hasn't really been told properly or shared in a way like this extensively through a book, something that like really could be treasured, over time. So yeah, that's kind of like how it all came about. And appreciate you contributing to the book. Obviously, you were a focal point of that era. That's how I was introduced to your music through hearing you on Clue Tape. So yeah, man, it's definitely like probably the illest shit I ever did in my life. That book, for sure.
It's wonderful, bro. It really is. Going back to you as an MC, who was your influences? Like, young Dan, just rapping, just go in front of the mirror, just lip syncing stuff. Who was your guy? Who are your guys that kind of molded you as an MC or influenced you?
My guys back in the day, like my the first thing that really caught me was like Law and Theory. And Q-Tip was always like probably like the first rapper I was like, oh, this dude is ill. Like, he's the man. That was like the first album I really had. And I was like, yeah, this is my shit right here. Redman was one for sure. Grand Puba was one for sure. He was like local guy. I knew it fell.
And
Um,
you have to, not to
yeah,
cut you off, but
yeah,
Redman and Puba were top of the charts back then in terms of MCs. Let's just people that don't know,
yeah,
before like Biggie came and the Nas's came and Redman, like when EPMD and they brought him out and all that, like
yeah,
Redman was ill, and
yeah,
Puba's forever underrated because Puba not only was a great MC, he was a trendsetter with fashion too. So, and like you said, 914 New Rochelle, and there wasn't many 914 representatives back then. So, yeah, shout out to that's a great call, bro. I can see that with you're very lyrical, and you got a crazy bounce and a flow, and I could see that them influencing you.
yeah. Appreciate that. Yeah, like they both had like crazy flow styles. Like they didn't flow the same on everything, which is something I kind of take pride in too. They were like fun. They rapped over like I don't know, just like kind of like ill funk, soul, hard beats. Um, yeah, all those guys kind of like all fit together to me. Adele was a big influence on me, Dell too, because I was born in Oakland. A lot of people don't know that. I lived out there for like the first 5 years of my life. So I used to go home. We used to call it going home. Like every summer we'd go back to Cali and stay in the Bay Area. And I would like be in Amoeba Records and like seeing what's going on in there, copping like hieroglyphic stuff. And Dell was always like another guy who had like an ill style. He was like crazy lyrical, hard beats, but like also fun too. Beastie Boys, Ad Rock was my guy. So it's like a kind of a mixture of all those dudes. Those were like my
Dope.
big ones coming up. I was in high school like 92 to 96. So like when I started rapping, it was all those dudes. I mean, obviously I listened to Nas, Biggie, all them, but
Of course.
those were the guys who were like influential on like me as like Ipcus, like writing.
Dope, dope. So let's go back. Let's go 10-year-old Dan. Like
Mm.
what do you want to be? Like what was life growing up for you, you know, 10,
Yeah,
12, 13 years old?
sports, like heavy, heavy basketball every day, playing ball, no question, every single day. Walk into the Highlands, which was like the park in White Plains, the school in White Plains near my crib.
Yep.
We used to be up there just like literally every day, like without fail, just running full court games with like kids our age, a little older, sometimes a little younger. Just always playing ball. My neighbor we shared a driveway. They had a hoop in the driveway. So we'd be out there playing knockout. That's where the Ipkiss name came from, game of knockout right there. Just constantly playing ball. Simple days, man. Like, you hit your boy on the phone or you just go knock on their door, you be on your bike, dip down, go to like Italian Pavilion or Ernesto or one of the local pizzerias, get a couple slices, then just go play ball. And it would just be like that. Oh, then we're gonna go to the deli real quick, get some chips and a drink, go back to the courts. Like 10, 12, like that's all it was. And then I played baseball too. I played for this team, the Capitals, White Plains Capitals. It was like the travel baseball team. So like fifth, sixth grade, I started doing that. So summers would be like, going to practice. You'd have a game or something. like those would be kind of like the big highlights of the week. Oh, I got a Capitals game or something like that. Um,
The summers felt endless back then. Like it just
yeah,
the days were just long and like I don't know, man. It's just it's
yeah,
a different. You can't explain it. I don't know if it was the era. Obviously, we're older and we have kids of our own, but like that era was just a different time. Like it was the pace of life was different. You know what
it's
I'm
a,
saying?
it
I think the
was.
phones and everything have sped everything up. Everybody knows everything, and everybody's just too much on top of things. Where we were just like on our own. Everything was about your friends and your bikes and
Yeah,
your mother yelling for you and we were outside and when you left your friends you might have went and hung out with your mom and dad outside. Everything was
yeah,
outside. You know what I
it's
mean?
true. It really was. Yeah, because it was kind of like nothing happened until you left your house, right? Like you couldn't.
Exactly.
I see like my kids like they're with their friends. They're chilling like all night. It's because they're all like playing Fortnite together or 2K or whatever the game is that they like. And like, it's just like a group of them all in there playing and talking shit and having mad fun and laughing. And, the game is like, obviously they're playing, but like, it's more about like the socializing. And we didn't really have that. Like, you might have like a phone call, maybe someone had like a three-way type of thing, but like,
Yeah.
no one was really on the phone like that. It was quick
Nah.
call. It was quick calls.
And if you were your mother, your father, they were jumping on the other line like get off, let's go.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
nothing like you didn't have that much
Yeah.
free time.
You didn't have your own line where you could just
Nah,
be
and
like
even video
chilling.
games, you didn't have the time. My mother would be like, "Yo, it's 80 degree, get out." Like, what are you doing? Like, you're out.
Yeah.
Like, you're not spending 3 hours in the house like in the summer. It just
I
wasn't
didn't.
happening.
You didn't even want to. Like
No, that's the thing. And if you
like,
did, it wasn't happening. It
yeah,
just
yeah. Right.
y-
Someone would probably shut it down or something would be
somebody, yeah, it
happening.
was.
Because
Nah, it wasn't. It wasn't.
it's not like, now like you're on your phone, you could be in your room, you could be chilling like dolo, like you couldn't be dolo on the phone. The phone was like in the kitchen. Or like the
Exactly.
Nintendo was hooked up to like the one TV that you had in your house,
Oh,
like
and I'm old enough to remember when there was no caller ID. When
yeah,
someone called you, you just were like, "Oh, it's Uncle Johnny." Oh, here, ma. It's like you
yeah.
didn't know who it was. You didn't have the luxury to be like, "Oh, it's him, not answering." You just
Right, right,
answered
right.
the phone.
Yeah,
And if the phone was off the hook, then it was busy for 3 hours.
yeah,
Or you were on the phone, it was busy. No one could get to you. It was a different way. Everything was a communication with people. So,
yeah.
you know, I know you probably do the same. I try to break it down to my kid and explain certain things, how things went, but I think it's just tough for them to really understand.
Yeah, but like I see, like like yes, I'm in New York right now, but like yesterday was like 60 degrees, but it's still like early March, so it's been freezing. All of a sudden, it's 60 degrees, and like I see, my two oldest boys, they got home from school, they ate something, and they went and walked to the park and they played ball all afternoon until it got
Dope.
dark, and I was just like, all right, cool. The world is still like okay, like as long as I see that, then I'm like, all right, man, it's all
It's
right.
true. Very
If
true.
they came home and it was 60 degrees and they didn't want to like leave or do anything and like all the kids weren't at the park, I'd be like, yeah, this is a problem. So,
Yeah, it's a problem. But that means you're
but
doing a good job as a
I
dad.
mean, I'm trying, man, and they're doing a good job too. I just think there's a lot of distractions and it's like very easy to just get caught up, But uh, when I see that, like that's like it just reminds me of like us, and it just
Hmm.
makes me happy when I see that.
Oh, when I see a group of kids riding a bike,
Yeah,
like the other day I saw, it was like 4 or 5 kids just wow, just going. I'm like, yeah, oh, I like these
yeah,
kids.
yeah,
These kids
exactly.
right off the bat, these kids are cool to me.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
like they're just cruising and none of them had helmets on, and they were just like riding. And I was like,
yeah.
I like them. I like their parents. I just like the whole thing about it.
Yeah,
Let them
yeah,
go. Let the
yeah.
kids go. In the neighborhood. Not saying they're traveling. I mean, shit. I lived in
No,
Yonkers.
no.
I used to go to the Bronx and play football. 10 of us on a bike. My mother thought I was down the street. I was in
Yeah,
freaking Bedford Park somewhere. Playing football against Spanish kids. Like she had no idea where I was. But those days are gone. But
yeah,
if they could still do the things we did and still have their freedom, which they deserve as
yeah,
kids, then it's good.
yeah. My oldest son, he's 14. Yo, he's taking the train to the city, you know, and it's like different because I used to go, we go to Fordham Road or whatever to like go look for sneakers or whatever and just fuck around and he'll like ask me, you know, hey, is it cool? You know, like I'll call you what from down there, I'll check in. Like it's almost like a different level of comfort for a parent, even though like back then we probably didn't even say anything. Like you said, you'd be in the Bronx playing football, your mom didn't even know what was up. You know, you just made it home. Now it's
How would
like,
she get to me though? She couldn't get
yeah,
me. You know, my mom didn't
exactly.
even drive, so she wasn't coming to find me. So it was like just she trusted in me that at some point I'm gonna call her and be back. Either be back on my
Right.
own or just give her a call and say at the payphone, "Hey, ma, I'll be home in an hour." You know, that's a
Yeah.
scary
Or they
time as a
just tell
parent,
you.
though.
Yeah, it's crazy. No, it's
It's
crazy.
right.
I like being able to get into. If, in fact, when I can't get in touch, my son, he's 10. He thinks he's 18, but
Oh,
like his phone died and he was gone like for a while. Like I don't know, maybe it was out of the house all afternoon into the night, like with his friends. And he was at a spot that I know is safe. It's local. It's kind of like a local trampoline park. All the kids go chill there. They got an
hmm.
indoor basketball court with like that's sick. And so I knew he was all right, but like I couldn't get in touch with him. I was like, oh, this is crazy. And I just thinking back in the day, like no one could get in touch with us.
No
But we
one.
knew it was just like it was different though. It was kind of like, yo, be back by 6 or you know, like you get that and that was
You
enough.
knew how the game worked.
Yeah.
You
You were
just
like,
knew
all right,
how it
cool.
worked.
I'm gonna do whatever I want till 6, but I know I gotta be back till 6 by
Yep.
6 or else it's not gonna happen tomorrow.
So what was like family life growing up? Like, did you do like holidays at your house, or did you go to other families' houses? Like, how was your household back then growing up?
My fam was like my fam was ill because like a lot of my family was in California. My mom's family was all in California. So like my grandmother out there, she lived in San Francisco. My aunt and like a lot of like my family friends that were like close that you would do holidays with were out there. So a lot of times, like I said, we would go in the summers, but sometimes we would go over like Christmas break. We'd go back to California. So that was always like go home, see family, stay with family, and just be like out in Cali for the holidays. I have good memories of that. But mostly it was like local. Like the biggest illest like holiday thing in my family was my uncle and my cousin, who was like a little older than me. They had a crib on Central Park West. They still do. My uncle was the publisher of Newsday back in the day, the newspaper, which was dope. Because like he would have the crazy like spring training connections, and
Oh man,
we'd go to Florida and like he'd know Steinbrenner and like all this crazy shit would start happening. But like for Thanksgiving, because his their crib was like on the third floor of the building, right on Central Park West. It was they had like a little balcony, and now you can't do it, but they used to be able to just sit right out there and watch the parade, and the floats would come, and it was like right like only a few blocks like from where the parade started, so you'd see the parade starting, and the floats would come like literally eye level right by you, and all the celebrities would be right there. And they'd be looking up. My uncle used to rock this, like, remember the cone heads from the Saturday Night Live?
yeah.
He had like a cone heads like it was almost like a cone heads thing where you put it on and look like you were a cone head, and he'd be out there rocking that, and people would be cracking up on the float looking at him. But like Thanksgiving was always like big because of that. We used to go down there every year. That was like one really big like holiday tradition. Other than that, it was low key. Like I didn't really have like mad family on the East Coast. A lot of my family was west. Like my little sister, so we just be with like with my parents, my mom, my uncle would go in the city, or we just kind of keep it low key at the crib. Um, yeah, not for that. That was like the biggest thing though. Thanksgiving.
I mean,
That was
having the
like the main
Manhattan
event.
vibe though is huge. You know,
Yeah, it
when
was
you're a
so
kid,
fun. Yeah,
you know, just to have that like someone's living a whole different life than you vibe, you know,
yeah.
and to be able to enjoy that and see that, you never forget stuff like that
Yeah,
ever.
we'd go down, we'd stay over, we'd watch the parade, then like the parade would die down, you go across the Central Park, play football. That was like another like you play like a little game of like touch football in the park, come back, have dinner. Like it was dope. It was like a cool little
That's
like
dope.
it was fire. It was a nice perk. It was a good family
Oh,
perk.
huge.
Yeah, yeah.
When you were young, did you see yourself as what did you see yourself? Or were you just kind of flowing with the times, or did you see what you were going to be when you were in your 30s and 40s when you were grown up?
I think I ever thought of that.
Nah,
Did you? Did you?
no. I mean, baseball play like when I was young. I mean, I played baseball my whole life, all the way up into high school. Always thought I had a chance because I was always really good. Um, and then when school ended, I was like, music. You know, music just was like it was always baseball or music. I never
Yeah,
thought of anything else. You know, I mean,
yeah,
so people ask me, and I'm like, career wise, it's always was sports and it was baseball or music.
yeah. I don't really ever remember thinking about like work or like having a job. But I was the same. Like I was all sports, baseball. Like younger years, like all baseball, like putting Mattingly pictures on the wall, like cutting out Sports Illustrateds, hanging that up. I'd be in my room, like, you didn't have a phone, so like your whole activity would just be like literally making your room look fire, like cutting pictures out,
So
putting them in
true.
frames, like making sure it's all set, making sure you got all the players. Oh, let me put the Yankees here, let me put the Mets here. Collecting cards. We used to be into collecting cards for sure, going to card shows and casing up
Putting your trophies up.
casing up joints, trophies.
Hats, putting
Yeah,
your hats on all over. You know,
yeah.
yeah, you're right. You
We
just
just
decorated with all your
just
shit,
make it
basically.
room fire. Like I see my son now, like he's got his own room now. Like my oldest son, he does the same thing. Like he wants to get the lights, and then he's got the picture, and he puts the book out and the magazine. He's got his record out. He's got like the Drake picture on the wall. He's got his whole setup with his game, and like he sits in there like trying to get his room right. I'm like, that's all I did. Like we
So
did it.
dope.
Yeah, yeah. So like when I see that, I'm like, yeah, that's my son right there. But yeah,
Love that.
yeah, I was just always into just like all that, and then it just you're right. It went from like sports and like baseball, NBA, all that shit into just like music, and it was just like, all right, let me just get every CD, every tape. Started buying records, fucking Source magazine, like. That's all I really cared about was just that. Like hip hop took over my life, like in high school for sure. It was like the number one interest out of everything, and
Same.
it never stopped. It really never stopped.
I
Still,
actually, I was so into baseball all the time, but as I got into like my senior year, it's just like my team sucked, the coach sucked, the school sucked, and you just knew that like music is the only way out right now. Like I didn't want to in my head, I didn't like you said, I wasn't thinking about in the work field. My mind was like, now I'm in the music business, so what am I going to do? You know, I'm going to buy
yeah,
tapes. I'm going to I'm a student of the game, right? I'm learning. I'm around a few people, so like yeah, it's just like transformed really fast into like music. You know, and maybe not knowing back then, maybe you just knew that like I got to follow what's the quickest path for me to get where I need to go.
yeah. I mean, I just think I was just interested in it. I don't think I think
Yeah.
the only thing I was like aspiring to at that age was like college. That was kind of like the first goal. It wasn't like, oh, let's think about like work. It was more just like, oh, what school are you gonna go to? That was
Yep.
like that I remember like caring about and like kind of working hard toward. I ended up going to the University of Maryland, which was dope. And like that was like my probably like my biggest goal was just like being able to go to like a dope school. But like everything like interest wise, and once I was down there too, it was just like music, 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 music,
Music.
music. Yeah. And I grew up playing the piano. My mother was a piano teacher. She used to teach piano out of the crib. We had like a big grand piano in our living room. And like I'd come home from school and she'd have like kids in there or even sometimes adults like just taking lessons all night. Like you had to come in quietly, go get like a couple Oreos, dip upstairs, bounce. Like you couldn't be loud in the crib. You couldn't really have friends over. It was just kind of like, yo, my mom's teaching Phil. And
Yo,
and
that's
so
so dope, man.
but we had a piano and like she cared about that. She made sure that like me and my sister always took music lessons. I had a teacher who like lived like a couple blocks away, and then I ended up taking jazz lessons at this like school in Scarsdale. Like so like I learned music theory and like how to play, and I probably like I just didn't gravitate toward that as much as like the writing and like the rap and all that shit. Like when I discovered that, that's when I like really like grasped onto it in like a different way, but like I had that foundation. So
You had the foundation.
yeah, and
That's funny
it
because
was always a big part of my life just because my mom was a musician. She was a teacher, she played. She was nice. She was nice with it too, like just on some classical shit.
it's crazy because before you said that, my next question was, were your parents music heads? Like that's
Yeah,
what I was where I was going, and you just and now
yeah,
you're just telling me your mom was. That's crazy. I can
yeah,
see it now. It makes a
yeah,
lot of sense.
yeah. She was ill. Like she used to do concerts. She had a friend. She used to do this like it was almost like a duets like on one piano with like two people, and they'd be it was crazy. She was always like really good, and she always made sure like I was taking piano lessons. I used to practice. I just don't. I think at like around like fifth or sixth grade, she realized like if I was playing stuff that like I liked, I'd probably get into it more. Like I just didn't like classical, so all of a sudden I started playing like Beatles, Led Zeppelin, like things like that, and then jazz, Thelonious Monk, and stuff like that. So I think once like I realized, oh, I can play like something that's not classical, um, then I think she helped me like stay interested in it. I took lessons like all the way maybe into high school, um, and then like, whatever, I kind of just started writing raps and getting into hip hop, and that was just like my life. And yeah,
I think a lot of stuff is connected and we just don't see it, like
yeah,
having music in your house, right? And your mom, teaching kids playing it you might not think when you're growing up that's but all that stuff as I got older, my mom always had music on. Like my mom woke up at 5:30, get ready for work, 6, and it was music on in the morning. It was Saturday, she's playing Billy Joel and
right,
like it was always music. And when I wanted music, she bought me records. Like she was always pro music. So like music, even though my mom didn't play it but my mom used to sing like at night. She'd sing when I was little, sing to me at bed, and it was always like music. So it's like you don't realize when you get older, it's just part of you.
yeah,
And then my mom was a writer, like she would write poetry, and you learn these things later, and you look back and you go, man,
uh,
like that was brought, it's inside of me already. Like that's
right.
a part of me, right? Like, so like hearing that from you, like it makes a lot of sense how you're so gifted musically, just having that with you since a kid.
Yeah, it's like subconsciously like music.
Subconsciously, exactly.
It's just like there. Like I mean, my dad used to always. I mean, he's not like a musician at all, but he used to always have like music on in the car and like have tapes, and you know what I mean. Like it was kind of like I think our radio got stolen, and they put the cassette player in the glove compartment. So like if you were riding shotgun, you were kind of like the one controlling the music. So
You
I
were the
think I,
DJ.
I think I used to like that. I used to be like, oh, what do you got? Whatever. And probably some of the shit was whack, but it was like Paul Simon or Motown or something. And then eventually it was just like, all right, cool. Like I'm gonna put my shit in here. But yeah, no, it was definitely a music friendly household. It wasn't like, oh, you hear the stories about like, oh, we were cleaning the house and playing the Temptations or whatever. Like, it was never like that, but it was just like there was a big ass piano as the main focal point of the
Yeah.
house. Like my parents' friends were musicians. Like, my dad was a director of a music camp back in the day, so all his stories were around like musicians and knowing people, and you meet. Guys, you go back to California, like, and you meet like some dude who was like some crazy, like, I don't know, trumpet player or like played the steel drums, and just like kind of this was a thing. It was just part of the family culture for sure.
Like, what are some of your favorite artists from outside of hip hop?
Like now or back then,
Any time from any era.
I'm a crazy reggae head, like big time. Like started with Bob Marley for sure, but like spent so much time just like listening to like roots reggae, like all that stuff from that like 70s, 80s era. Like constantly listen to that era of reggae. I mean now too, but like that like Bob Marley-ish style of reggae, dudes like Freddie McGregor, Don Carlos, like cats like that, Mighty Diamonds. Like just I've spent like a really good portion of my adult life basically looking for and trying to discover reggae artists that are like in that Bob Marley genre that I don't know about, and I'm still like digging always. That's a big one for me. I used to like when I was younger, like probably like Stevie Wonder was my guy. Like I had all the Stevie Wonder albums. I had like all my favorite tracks. The whole era of like 70s like soul music was big for me. Like I just had an era of like discovering all that, like Al Green, if like Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, like all that era of that stuff, and then kind of like the deeper cut artists. And I still always like that. Um, I like kind of became like a little bit like of an indie guy, like maybe like mid 2000s. I got into like the Shins and like the Band of Horses and like some of these like indie rock bands that like kind of they're more like our generation, maybe a couple years older, or guys that were like our age that just like make like a dope style of like indie rock music, like not so hardcore, um, almost like a blend of like folk and rock, but like crazy harmonies and stuff like that. I've always been like really into like that scene of music too. Um,
Your music tastes are very diverse, I have to say.
yeah,
So I got to ask you. Obviously, the book "Do Remember" was phenomenal. If you had to pick one DJ, it's hard. I get it, but like, who do you think was? I mean, the best. And I'm not saying it doesn't even have to be like mixtape. Who do you think was the best DJ of all time?
uh, my favorite mixtape DJ is SNS for sure.
Okay,
That was my guy, like on some mixtape
love
shit.
S man. Remember he used to scream. Ah!
Yeah, and he just
Yeah.
always had the joints that I liked. Like he always had like the exclusives that I like. He used to even have
And a
like from,
good guy. Like S is a good dude, which
oh
you don't
man,
find through the game often. But S is a classy and a good guy.
he's someone that like I still text with, talk with. Like I don't know, like he's like the one who like out of everyone, like for some reason just we stayed cool and like I don't know, like I would almost consider him a friend, even though I never met him in person. Like we've always stayed in touch ever since we did that first Now Right interview. We did another interview for the book. You know, he was always down to help, contribute, support, showed mad love. Just like we've talked since, like about like different ideas, different things he's trying to do. You know, he shows love to my music. Like he's like been like, yo, the song's fire. He'll like help send it out to like all his like DJ crew. Yeah, so you're right. He's a mad cool dude, but like just on some DJ shit, he was just the most exciting. He always had like the mix of songs that I like the most. He was playing like the BBO shit, like stuff that that just would always have like,
And then he'd play like some Snoop and Dog Pound
yeah,
shit. Wouldn't care. He'd
he
just play
he'd have the Snoop
fire
shit early.
joints.
Yeah, he'd play Bone Thugs. He'd be like, oh
Yeah.
shit, but he'd have like the Shafi MCs, Tribe Called Quest shit. He'd have all the Puba exclusives, like so he'd have all that plus the Nas and the Biggies and the Woos and all the stuff that you would expect from like the mixtapes. He'd have like both. So that's why I always liked him. He's always my favorite. Like from doing the book, I mean, you just discover like how nice some of these other dudes were. I mean, Green Lantern was like, I don't know, we did this like 50 tapes thing on the Do Remember newsletter. I listened to a lot of crazy like old Raider tapes and just like different stuff from like the guys who were more on like skill side. But I always loved WAP. I always loved Tony Touch. Kid Capri is just like I got really into listening to Kid Capri tapes during the making of the book too, because he was a little before my era. Like a lot of that like 89, 90 stuff. Like when I started going to mixtape spots, it was like 93, 94. So I missed some of those like old Kid Capri tapes. He has one that's on my birthday. It's like 525. So like I was like, yo, this tape is crazy, and it's the date of my birthday. I fell in love with that joint. I don't know, man. There's too many to name.
There's too many.
There's
But it's probably as you were doing the book, you probably learned so much.
Yeah,
Right? Just sourcing and just finding shit that you probably never even knew about.
yeah, or like you knew the name, but you never had the specific tape, or like you go do research, someone puts you onto something. Yeah, man, so much shit. Definitely learned that shit. 100% doing
Dope.
that.
Dope.
Yeah,
All right. To end it off, gotta go 3 dinner guests.
Larry David, sure.
What?
Larry David would be hilarious to have dinner with.
Damn.
Hove, I always wanted to meet Jay-Z. He's just like, I don't know, man. He's just like the one guy who, I don't know, I just always like was hoping I'd cross paths with. I've come close, very close, but I just never have, man. I don't know. He's one guy I've always just wanted to like, not even meet, man. Just like on some music shit, just like connect with. Feel like
Well, right
it's
off the bat, Larry David and Hove is insane at a table together. So
yeah,
right, two
yeah.
out of three is crazy so far.
The dynamic would be funny with those two also.
Crazy.
Um, damn, third, it would have to be some funny motherfucker. I don't know, man. I'm trying to think.
Gotta throw a third in.
Gotta throw it.
They might come for dessert.
I'll do Maniscalco
Yo,
just to be on some like just funny shit. That dude is mad
yo.
funny to me. I don't know what it is. Like, yeah,
Larry David, Hove, and Maniscalco. Okay. That's a crazy. Listen, there's been some crazy ones so far, but that right there is because I'm
yeah,
Larry David and Hove already was crazy.
yeah. Maniscalco is like, I don't know, yo, that dude just cracks me out. I mean, my wife is Italian, so like we bonded over that, but I've seen him live a couple times. I don't know, there's something about his stand up that just cracks me up. Like everything about it. It's just, I don't know. Some people will be like, yo, that's
Facial expressions and all
yeah.
that.
They'll be like, yo, his new special's not as good. I'll be like, nah, man, it's amazing. I don't know what it is. It's just like pure joy for me, like watching this shit. I just think he would be funny at dinner, like with those two guys. I don't know, that would be a fun three for me.
Last one, we're gonna do one word. I'm gonna say a few things. A line. You give me one word.
All right,
All
got
right.
yeah.
All right. Westchester County.
Fire, slept on. Yeah,
Don Mattingly.
go
Yankees.
home team,
Mixtapes.
jams,
Your wife.
super jam,
Kids.
crazy.
Stan Ipcus.
God, MC,
Dan Isenberg.
father, just trying to do my best, man.
That's it, bro. That's it. Listen, like always, salute. Thank you for coming on.
Yo,
It's
thank
been
you.
a pleasure.
Thank you, man. It's always a pleasure to link up, and we got plenty more things to do. I appreciate you having me on, man. Keep going. Congrats on starting this up. I remember you telling me about it. I love seeing it come to fruition, and I'm proud to be a guest, man. Thank you. It was fun to reminisce with you.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
They say you can't live in the past, but we can hang out there for a while.